Hello, this is Ashee from Crafting with Ashee and welcome to this card making tutorial. This is the glorious card we're making today. We're going to stencil the background, stamp and stencil and colour the background. And we're making everything from scratch apart from the sentiment. And we're going to just use this one stamp here to do everything. And it's going to create this beautiful card and focal image. Now I'm just doing my outline here in Memento Tuxedo Black, and I'm just using my stamping tool to help me get a good and crisp, a really nice crisp, image, print, stamp. So now I'm going to give it a clean, and then I'm going to dry it off a little bit with just a little cloth, and then I'm going to lift this up. And then I'm going to position it on the top where I want it. And then I'm going to restamp it again using Memento Tuxedo Black. And this is it takes a bit of time to create this background, but it really is beautiful. And it's really worth the time and effort. I made this card with my in-person card club, and they loved it. It did take them a bit of time because the stenciling just takes time to get things lined up, because everything is not as simple as normal. And then we're just going to put the stamp here, you see, just on the corner to catch the corner here. And then I'm going to do that and give that a really good press down, because the stamp is stopping it getting a good image, because it's covering the side of the stamping tool. So you really need to give it a good press down, as you can see. Right, I'm going to take this out. Now I need to restamp that centre flower, and I've forgotten to do that, so off camera I restamped the centre flower, as you can see, and this is going to be our focal image. Now I've held down my piece of paper here to my grid paper with some post-it note tape, and now I'm just taking time to get my stencil lined up the way it's meant to be. And now that it is, I am going to hold this down as well with some post-it note tape. But first, once I've got it where I want, I'm going to use my pencil mark to mark a little notch that's in every stencil. And this stencil set it has 5 stencils to create a colour in our image, and they each have a notch, and as long as you match the notches up, you will then be able to easily layer each stencil. So our first card was bubble bath rather, berry burst and blackberry bliss. And now we're doing a different colourway here that you can see. So I've got Poppy Parade, and now I need to line it up again with the top. I'm just trying to create some space for myself, because who else has this problem, that it doesn't seem to matter where you start, you always creating in the size of a postage stamp. So now I'm going to make another mark here where that notch is, and now lining these two up will be much easier. So there we go. I'm going to put on our base layer, and I'm just using the small blending brushes because I find them much easier to use than the larger ones. Now I'm just going to try and colour in the centre of this flower, and I find this, to be honest, took the most time to get this really lined up properly in the right orientation. But we just want the centre flower, and a bit of it's all we need there. We don't need the rest of it. Right, so now we're going to close that up, and we're going to come in with our second stencil, and I'm using that notch to help me line it up, and it makes a huge difference. If I didn't have that notch, I'd be here all day trying to line this up. I know I would. So stick this down again with some post-it note tape, and I'm going to go with my second darkest colour. So this is the real red, and I'm just putting this down. This is going to start to give me my shadows and my highlights. Isn't that cute? Just absolutely gorgeous. I just love it. Makes you look like you're an absolute brilliant artist and you just use stencils. But the trick is to make sure everything is lined up properly and that you don't get ink underneath the stencil. So there you go. So now I'm going to bring in my flower here and try and line things up, and I took a bit of time here trying to find the right where it was, and if you're not sure, you just do what I'm doing here. Just keep going around in a circle until you find the right way that it's meant to lie. And sometimes, like you can see here, it takes a bit of time and it's a bit of a nuisance, and this is because I didn't have that notch there to help me, but I got it done. Right, so now we're going to go in with our final layer for the flowers, and I'm going to just go with our deepest colour here, which I think off the top of my head was cherry cobbler, but all the colours will be listed and linked in the description box below, as well as on my blog. You'll find them linked to the online shop, so you can just shop as you want. Now you can see I'm not happy that it's not dark enough as far as I'm concerned, so I'm going to put this down and I'm going to go with a heavier hand and get a really nice contrasting colour. There we go, that's better. Right, now for the top, and I should say this stencil looks like it's full of ink, and it is, but these stencils, they wash up a treat, I should say. Really easy, no problems, just put it straight onto the tap and they are clean within seconds. It's really useful. There's no worry or faff, any having to faff about with it at all. There we go, isn't that lovely? Now I'm just trying to see for my little piece here on the end, I forgot to do this on the other stencil, so I had to go back off camera and do that. And now I'm just lining this up again to make sure I have it. There we go, properly lined up for those two little extra bits there. Right, and then I need to still do, which I've forgotten to do so far, is the centre of my other flower. I'm not sure when I remember to do it, but I do remember to get, no, you can see there, I've remembered now. So back with the stencil, and we're going to just line this up again and fight with it again. As I said, if this had been like the other ones, you wouldn't have to fight in the same way, because you'd have that lovely notch to help you along. But that looks good anyway. So right, now we are ready to move on to the green leaves. So I've got two colours of green here, lemon lime twist and granny apple green. And you can see how I'm just finding my notch, lining it up, and it makes it so much easier. Right, so we're done with our reds, now we're moving on to the greens. And I have to say, I never really liked lemon lime twist when it came out. I won't deny it wasn't a favourite, it wasn't a colour I used, it just sat on the shelf. But recently I found it really, really nice to use in conjunction with granny apple green, and I really like the combination. It's nice fresh greens together, and I find it works really well. I was using a lot of mossy meadow and old olive, but now I seem to be using much more the granny apple green and lemon lime twist. It just seems to speak to me more, especially at the moment where I'm looking for lovely, bright, happy spring colours. This is definitely what I'm feeling at the moment. So I'm just looking to see that I can do this little piece here on the side. There we go. And then of course we have to do our main flower as well. And I'm just making sure I have everything lined up. And what I'm doing here is that I'm comparing my main flower to my flower here, and then I can see which leaf that I want to have lined up there. You can see, and that helped. There we go. Right, all done. Let's get rid of that, and we're going to go in with our last colour, on our last stencil. So this is stencil number 5. And now we're going to just line this up using our notch again, and then we're going to go in with our granny apple green and give our leaves a little bit of depth and dimension. So let me know, do you enjoy stenciling? Have you loved the layering stencils from Stampin' Up? I definitely do. I find them, they make for such easy, beautiful colouring. And they take the guesswork out of the colouring as well. I mean, there's not saying that you don't want to colour things in yourself. I've coloured these in using the Stampin' Blend alcohol markers, and you could do that as well, and it would look equally, if not equally as beautiful. But I think it's just nice sometimes to be able to go in with the stencils and get it done so simply and so easily. And it's great if you want to make lots of cards like this, to be able to have the stencil for easy colouring. So if I wanted to make a whole set of these, this would, having the stencils make this so much easier, And then we're going to just do this last little bit here, the last few leaves here, and then we will be done and dusted and covered in ink as well, of course. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? Absolutely gorgeous. I love the way it turned out. So now we're just going to do the little bit of extra bits and bobs for my leaf here, for my focal image, and I'm just going in with a bit. At this point I'm not too faffed about it, anything will look good. Right, that's it. Let's close up the ink pad before we have a disaster. And now we're ready to die cut everything out. So that flower will die cut out with that, and then we'll put that through the machine. We don't need to die cut anything on our background, and as if by magic it's all done. So now we start to assemble our card. Our card here is, I think it's Poppy Parade as the card base. It's either Poppy Parade or Real Red, but it'll be linked, as I said, below, and all the measurements are on the blog post. So there we go, there's the insert. And now I'm going to use a piece of vellum here for my, just where I'm going to put my sentiment and my focal image. And the reason I'm using the vellum is it just helps to knock this really busy background into the background a little bit, so it'll help our focal image just pop a little bit more. And I'm going to have this one that says sending hugs. So then I'm just measuring, roughly how wide I want my strip to be. Well, somewhere around there will do fine for me. So if you don't have vellum, you can also use tracing paper as well. And then I'm just going to stick this down, so I'm getting some of my seal, and I'm just going to fold this over at one end, and then I'm just going to use my bone folder to get a crisp fold there, and then fold it taut across the front and fold it down into the glue on the other side, and that should hold it enough. Now I'm going to stick this down to my base. There we go. Now we're ready to stick our flower down. So we're going to pop the flower up on some dimensionals. So I'm just going to get those out. And as you know, I'm quite generous with my dimensionals, so I'm putting quite a few on the back here and also some on the sentiment. And then we'll take those backings off. So if you've enjoyed this video, I would be grateful if you could give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does make a huge difference to the visibility of my videos on YouTube, and I really do appreciate it. I really hope you've enjoyed this video featuring the Layers of Beauty stamp, stencil and die set from Stampin' Up. I've shown how you can make this lovely stencil background very easily using a layering stencil set. So there we go. So thank you again, and until next time, enjoy being creative. Bye. Oh, sorry, I forgot the finishing touch here. Sorry. Here's some lovely rhinestones. You can't say no to some rhinestones, a little bit of bling. I'm just going to use these here and there in a few flower centres. I'm just bringing one or two down there. And there you have it. That is the end of the card. So there we've got the reddish version and the more purplish version. You can tell me which you prefer. So thank you again. And as I said, enjoy being creative. Bye.